James Talarico and Ken Paxton running for the U.S. Senate for Texas is what I kind of call a prime example of extreme hypocrisy. We already see that Talarico is up by 12 points on Paxton, but the sheer fact that Paxton won the Republican primary shows the power of the cash, and it worries me because the DNC, in my opinion, still doesn't get it. Paxton called Talarico Tofu Talarico. And so James came back and told Paxton that he has been eating barbecue before Paxton's first conviction. Now, I thought that shit was really funny. I thought it was really funny, but the fact that this guy has been indicted on security fraud charges, he got a deal to get out of that. He was impeached by the Texas House, and the dude even stole a pen. All this shit just shows just how insane all of this is, and how the money with the power to advertise and dictate what people take as the truth, all this shit really, really has me worried. So Howard, what strategy do you think the Democrats need to adopt to overcome the money, the media machine, and the MAGA frenzy that Republicans, as you can see, they're already doing it, are pouring into this big-time critical Senate race?
Well, I mean, we talked about it at one time on this podcast about the population in the South, but especially in Texas, as far as the Black and brown population down there.
Mm-hmm.
Then the name of the game in Texas is going to be voter turnout. Mm. I mean, that's we always say that. I mean, you hear that every election cycle, but that's the fact there.
Yeah.
That if you got more Black and brown people voting in Texas, and they voted for the Democrats, or at least not for the Republicans. I believe that Talarico could win. So what do the Democrats have to do? What the Democrats have to do is they have to first reposition voting in the mind of young people. They need to give them the message that this is your opportunity to take control of your future. This is the opportunity that you don't have to, that you can change the way the ship is sailing right now. And because these people, my generation, our generation, the generation before me, mm-hmm. have totally messed up their future. They mortgaged their future. So there's the way they can take control of it. Right. How are they going to do that? Well, what they need to do is to use the playbook that was so successful, and tweak it with the Republicans last election cycle. And that is, they're not going to have the money to go head to head on the cable and network and streaming commercials with everyone else and knows that.
No, they ain't got that money. They ain't got that money. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Where can they go? They can go exactly where we are right now. They can go digital and hit them on social media and pay support. Now, I'm not saying you have to make direct payments, but you could pay influencers or financially support influencers with the resources in order to get the message out, because they're not going to listen. They're not going to listen to politicians.
No,
these young people are not going to listen to say, "Go vote," like we do everyone.
That's right.
Rock the vote. That's not going to work.
That's right.
That's not going to work. You're going to need to have somebody who is somebody they trust to tell them not go vote. That's not the message. And ultimately, they want to vote, but the message is it's time for us to take control of our future, and this is an opportunity right now where we can change the establishment, almost like a '60s message,
right?
And do that. But they need to invest. They need to identify people who are perceived to be authentic and trustworthy on social media, and fund them. And I think they can get that message out. But what they need, that's the strategy I think they can employ to go against these big media dollars that they're going to be facing.
Yeah. But that's the thing that you have to look at, because what you're saying is exactly right. We can't, the Dems cannot compete going head to head, dollar for dollar, because you look at all these influencers out there. You got the MAGA heads, you got that money, putting money behind all these influencers out there. All those people, especially these Black MAGA influencers. that shit is hard to beat. That right there is
Well,
hard to beat. Give you an example. You talking about put money. This is what they need to do. If somebody put $10,000 a week into this show, I could take care of the boosting that I need through Facebook, YouTube, to make sure that the message is out to build our subscribers. And I can get to those pockets to deliver those messages directly to those people in those areas where the brothers need to be voting. But once again, they're not putting those town halls out there to them. So, Stu, we were just talking about the money. Do you think that the Texas Republicans may have walked right into a Democratic trap by nominating their most scandalous played candidate ever? I mean, I know you got thoughts on that, brother.
So the money, Paxton has $2 million on hand, maybe he's got 7 million total, and Talarico has 10 million on hand and maybe 40 million going in that he's raised. So the money's there for Talarico. Paxton's having real problems because he didn't get impeached because of something he said or because of some separate thing. When you get impeached for fraud, people have a tendency not to want to hand over the money. So there's that. There's 7 points at a minimum that Talarico has in the polling over Paxton. At the bottom, it's 7, and it's as high as 10 or more. But also, I'm still going to say that this is about the center. We're never going to get young people to vote. It's a fine thing to talk about, but it's a dream. Unless we get into some sort of war where there's a draft and suddenly young people realize voting's the way to go, you're never going to get young people to vote. You're never going to get them to turn out. And it's the smart play to aim the money, to aim the strategy, to aim the social media, whatever we got at the center, because that's where we're going to get places like Texas. It's how Talarico is going to win. That he's going to get, we may see 10% of Republicans vote for Talarico.
Okay, all right, but I'm going to go back. You're saying that we're never going to get the young. And do we and you're saying that the message should be voting, directing it to the center. So you're thinking like the DNC, don't try to go to the brothers, the Latinos, to talk to them, give them that message directly. You don't think
that's not the young people. Absolutely. Okay. The DNC needs to be having town halls where we can have them, but go after centrist brothers, go after centrist Latinas, go after the ones in middle management, go after the doctors and the lawyers and every other career in people of color and the ones who are looking at things like the economy, like women's health care, centrist issues, and focus on that. So, yeah, the DNC needs to work harder to go after people of color to get in there, just not young people, because it's not going to matter.
Didn't Beto try that particular approach as well, going after the centrists with that, trying to, like you said, trying to get a certain percentage of Republicans to go that way when he was going against Cruz? Didn't he try that approach as well?
He also went, I would argue, he also went a little too much at the young people with the skateboarding and everything, which is fine. I'm not knocking it, but he really pushed in there and he spent resources going after the youth vote, and they didn't vote.
And the reason, once again, you're saying you're not going to get the kids to vote is why again?
Well, because there's not a draft, because their lives aren't on the line. And so they're going to pay attention to other stuff. You're not going to get them. It's understandable. right? Young people don't really care even too much about healthcare
I
because
disagree
they're
with that.
invincible, because they're 18, they're 19 years old, they're made of rubber, and they can
I totally
eat.
disagree with that. I mean, having 18-year-old having I'm in Northern Virginia, and one of the things all these kids around here are always talking to me about, maybe it's because of who I am, but I know one thing: who my son, all of his friends are constantly talking because they experience it, like with him and the guys on the team up in Hagerstown. You go outside of Hagerstown's got some of the most racist motherfuckers in the world around there. You're starting to get towards the mountains and all that. So a lot of times they had to deal with that. And also these young people see what the bigot is doing to people that they once thought were a particular way, and they find out that they're not that particular way. A lot of young people, from what I see, seem to be pretty active. I mean, those are some numbers going to probably have to get Russ to look up and see how they are in terms of state by state, how they're interacting, because I do think that there are a lot of kids who do care. Like I said, once again, I have to look at, I can only look at it from my point of view, but once again, I'm looking at who I am and how I talk to my kids and everybody at church and everybody around me about what's going on. So, but the kids that I see that are around, that are close, they have other parents, especially have a lot of black parents in this area that are talking to their kids about what's going on and the need to vote, them going out voting early. There are a lot of people that are trying to be proactive, but then you got some kids who parents may not care. But I do see where I'm at that you have a lot of kids who are really, really, really paying attention to what's going on because they see that things are different. And also they notice the behavior of their parents and things around them, wondering why gas is going up so high, wondering why would you take away those districts? Like my kids always asking about why would they change the districts up? Why don't they let us have representation? These are things that they're hearing constantly. My daughter today, she had they had this senior awards, diversity of kids up there, a diversity of kids. And the majority of those kids that were up there, the parents and the people I know, they talk to them about voting. And all of those kids that are 18, I know for a fact that the majority of them, because I saw some of them walking into the polling station with their parents, are voting. So I'm thinking that with the way everything's going in Texas, with Talarico, I see your point with focusing the message on the centrists, but I also say, hey, look, you show these kids what's going on right now, and you find the kids who are being proactive. Once again, that's going back to social media. That's where it's really got to be at. You got to hit these kids on social media, because that's where we're losing the black vote, because you got the Hodge twins out there. You got Candace Owens. You got all these brothers selling out. You got Stephen A. I know you don't like to talk about it, Stu, but you got all these people out there that are voting, that are selling us out for the dollar. And it's all MAGA push. Like I said, I could have had that MAGA money years ago, but I said, no, I'm not doing it. And, I'm struggling right now, but I'm getting by. So, but let me ask Russ a question. So, Russ, what are your thoughts on all of this just going down in with this Texas race with Ken Paxton?
It shows how little conservatives care about corruption.
Yeah.
I mean, they elected the most corrupt president in history. He makes Nixon look like a choir boy or an Eagle Scout. Like, the comparison is insane, and they just keep supporting him and keep supporting his whoever he endorses. Those people, there's no saving them. What we need is to counter what Turning Point has been doing for the last 15 years in this country. They're going on high school and college campuses and spreading fascist propaganda. And if there's one thing that is successful in history, it's propaganda. It's effective. And when you have the money to do it everywhere, like billionaires do, and sponsoring these people, in the 1930s and 40s in Germany, it was called the Hitler Youth. There were schools that taught the propaganda and got the kids ready to go to war and take over all these territories. And it was effective. But in the end, the people leading were morons, and they lost. That's literally the only thing we have in our favor is the utter stupidity of these right-wing lunatics at the top of the totem pole, because they always fail. You know why Germany failed in World War II? It wasn't because they didn't have good equipment. The Panzer was an amazing tank. The Messerschmitt was it was a great plane, Me-262. These were great products, but their supply lines were horse-drawn carriages. The tanks would run out of fuel and they're a sitting duck.
Yeah.
You know, and the innovation of our collective country with the diversity we have of thought is what made us be able to go from building cars to tanks and planes overnight. The Sherman was inferior, but we could build 5 for every Panzer. And we just outnumbered them with our productivity. And productivity, it was African Americans and women building that equipment.
Yeah.
Like, when you have diversity and you have a cohesive society, you can accomplish great things. When you have a division that oppresses half or 2/3 of your country, you're never going to be successful. My mentor in economics always said, when you're oppressing half your country, you can't be a great nation.
Yeah.
And he was spot on.
Yeah. I mean, and all that is factual. And when you look at the fact that you got Ken Paxton and all the crap and insanity that's going on with this guy, and like I said, the guy stole a pen. I mean, the guy's the idiot, but MAGA being MAGA, getting behind that orange fool, he's who Talarico has to go against. And I think this is a prime time for the DNC to really push and get the message across. And like you said, need to use a different approach. Go to the influencers, go around and make things happen. What are your thoughts, Howard? Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to add one more thing. I was going to say, because the failed campaign of Beto O'Rourke was brought up, and I'm going to say this is the difference between what Beto tried and what I'm suggesting, and what the Republicans did very successfully is the message can't come from the candidate. The message has to come from their peers. So the message, so just like Russ was talking about Charlie Kirk, they didn't vote for Trump because Trump convinced those college kids to vote for him.
Charlie Kirk did.
Yeah. It was because Joe Rogan did. It was because Theo Vaughn did. It was because Andrew Schultz did. That's who we need to get. We don't have those people on the left. There is no Charlie Kirk on the left. There is no Theo Vaughn. You know what I mean? We have people that, progressive people watch, on YouTube, who are these, figures, but they spend so much time, talking about how messed up Trump is instead of focusing on organizing. And that's what Charlie, one thing I'll say about, this guy who, where he was effective, Charlie Kirk was effective. He was effective in putting out that BS propaganda with an organizing tone and this message behind it.
Yeah.
He knew how to get that energized and moving forward. We're not very good. The left has not been very good at that in this case and fighting at this point in time. In the past, we were good. Vietnam War, good.
Yeah.
But this, not so good.
Yeah.
Obama was a community organizer, and that's how he became president. He had a great organizational structure, and we've gotten away from that. We focused on the money, which we're never going to have more money than the conservatives do. They've been getting tax cuts and more tax cuts and more tax cuts every single time a Republican's president. So we have to figure out how to do it at the grassroots level, town halls, social media. We've got to be better at that.
Yeah, like I said, that's what I want Couch Chat to be. Because, like I said, you got the Hodge twins, you got all these idiots out there, they being paid. They got somebody paying them X amount per week, X amount per how much content they push. They're getting money to boost everything. They're putting that money in there, and the DNC isn't doing that. And I'm just going to be honest. If I had a budget, a weekly budget, I would be able to put out 10 times as much as I'm doing right now. And also I'd be able to do more as well, be able to reach out to people that people need to hear from. I would be talking to people that are out there in Texas right now, making contact, seeing who these influencers are, reaching out to them directly, looking at their reach. Okay, let's see about hitting this area. What do they like to talk about? What can we put together the next hour? Let's start putting content out there together. That's what I would do. That would be my job. Put the money behind COUCHAT, and that is something that we could do. And like you said, Turning Point USA, they get the money for that. DNC, they don't get it. They doing the same shit. They trying to fight them in a particular way. You can't out money bigger money, but you can use the resources that you have to be more tactful, and be able to put a plan in place that has the potential to grow on a much lower budget. Obama was able to kick ass, like you talked about, Russ, how he was organized. Obama was the one that showed everybody how to use social media to get elected. He brought that. He was the one tweeting. He was in the mix. Then the DNC just kind of went away from that. And what happened? You got all those people on the right using those same tactics and expanded even more. Like, just say Obama's blockbuster with all this of Turning Point USA and all that, they're Netflix. They took what Obama was doing and just went deeper into it. And paying those people out there, those black MAGA guys to put this content out there, and you got CBS all fucked up now and everything. We got to be able to fight that by going directly to the people. And the DNC's got to change its way. And everything that you said, Howard, is right about that. Anyway, fellas, we're going to the last topic.